Okay, Namaste. Welcome to Ask Helen Anything, and this is volume 25. I will fess up, I have the giggles right now, so I'll do my best to focus. So if you're new to this feature, there's a whole playlist of these you can dive into. And the basic premise is anything you want to ask or share or need help with, you can post underneath this video. And approximately once a month, we'll jump on here and record the answers to these. And it's great if there's something you want to ask, but you can't make it to a live satsang. There is also, if you want to send something in anonymously, you can do that via our website, helenhamilton.org. And on there, on the Satsang page is a form you can fill out. You send it in, of course, but it's always read out anonymously with no personal details in there. So just a heads up if you didn't know you could do that. So without further ado, Karen, whenever you're ready, if you'd like to read the first comment, thank you.
Good morning. The first comment is from Mrs. Just There to Learn. She says, so many gems. Thank you, Helen.
Thank you.
And Mimi also says, thank you, Helen. Very helpful.
Thank you.
User OT4, beautiful. Thank you, Helen, Karen, and all who sent in questions.
Thank you.
Michael also says, thank you. This really helped.
Wonderful.
From Susan, thank you so much, Helen, for all the wonderful insights to the many varied questions that are asked in these Ask Anything videos. They are so helpful. Love and blessings.
Wonderful. And just, we do tend to get some very different questions on these videos than we would in a normal live satsang. So I love it, really enjoy it. So glad it's helpful. Thanks, Karen.
Sure. Brian McGuire says, your time is very valuable as well. Majority don't realize the gift of transcendence, transmutation, ego deconstruction, alignment, and ultimately a direct connection with source, consciousness, is priceless beyond measure. In form, I am a trainer, nutritionist, writer, researcher, wellness coach, and spiritual advisor. I still don't charge anything for advising them spiritually, but at some point, perhaps I should. I'm extremely minimalist and so grateful for basic needs and healthy food. I also have a child and bills, so I can't do everything free, even if I wanted to. I totally understand where you're coming from. Much love to you, and thank you for your leadership on this platform.
Thank you for your support there. There's a comment in response to a question that came in, or a comment that happened last time. And I was sharing my challenges with charging money for courses and things like that. In fact, talking about prices and my own sense of unworthiness when I first began not charging when I knew I probably should have, because there's bills to pay, as you pointed to, the kids to raise and all of that. So I just want to say I do appreciate your support there. It hasn't been an easy journey in terms of that for me, as you may know. So yeah, thank you for sharing. Thank you, Karen.
This next comment is from Nishi. Thank you, Helen. I'm feeling very nervous and scared. I can't sleep well, even with all the medications I take. Please pray for me and send me your blessings.
Absolutely. You have them always, and my love always and my support. What I would suggest, though, as well, is to we can receive as many blessings as are sent, and there are infinite beings right now trying to help us all. But we also can do our part from our end. So maybe if you feel like it, and I'm not saying you have to, of course, maybe opening up a little to what's going on. There's and maybe sharing it more specifically here with me so I can be of more help if you want to. There's obviously a lot of negative emotion there, fear and things like that. And there's many videos on the YouTube channel talking about fear, things like that. But specifically, if you go to the Core Teachings playlist, there's a playlist there, and also contemplation playlist. I'd really recommend you having a look at that. And then beginning to work with fear in the way that we've done in that. That technique of contemplation is challenging the idea that the belief, that the emotion rather, is a reflection of. So fear isn't fear because of something external, even though that's a hugely popular idea in the human thought process. Fear is a reflection of believing myself to be a separate being and therefore not feeling safe. If I'm a person, I was born and I'm going to die, and all kinds of external things can affect me. If I realize myself to be the infinite self, then I'm going to be able to move beyond that fear. So any fear, or in fact, any negative emotion at all, is just asking us to look a little deeper into who we really are. So no pressure. You have my blessing and my love always. And if I can be of more help, please do write back in and let me know. Thank you. Thanks, Karen.
Stella says, thank you so much, Helen, for your beautiful answer. You have reassured me, and I will follow your contemplation videos. Much love and appreciation.
Wonderful. So glad it was helpful.
This next question comes from Mandy. Hi, Helen. Thank you very much for your precious satsangs. I deeply appreciate the depth of them. I have a maybe unusual question for you. I wonder how an awakened one would answer a political question like, should we support Ukraine with weapons? I do believe that awakened people should not be afraid to show their opinion about worldly matters. Am I wrong? With much love, Mandy.
People often ask questions like this, and it's difficult for me to give a finite or definite answer because from that awakened place, we never know what we're going to say. Just as right now, you don't know what you're going to say next. You might have a thought that you do. You might have thought it through. Our mind does this process of running through a conversation as if it could be anything other than spontaneous. So my words, my actions, thoughts are completely spontaneous, and I have no capacity to control those. They're just arising straight out of that stillness that I am. So I can't really say what I would or wouldn't do in any particular situation. Perhaps an awakened being might be less inclined to comment on worldly matters, as you said, because they have a perhaps deeper understanding of the root of those issues, which is always within our own consciousness. There's only one being here. And while it believes in various body minds that it's not safe, it will experience fear and perhaps a need to control. And sometimes that control is just of our own lives. We try to control certain aspects of our life to keep it the same so we feel safer. And we really believe that we're doing actions as a separate being to do that. And here we also see this belief that we are choosing what to say, or even whether to say anything or not. As amazing as it sounds, that really isn't the case for any of us. An awakened being has just seen that more clearly. So the awakened being is probably more likely to really look at a situation in the world like that and actually take it into their own investigation. Anything that's going on in an outside way is a reflection of what's going on inside my own consciousness as the infinite self. So if something is going on in political arena, or there's a war going on, or there's something going on that's making a lot of news, my response would most likely be and I'm happy to discuss anything, but I'm most interested in looking at the beliefs that are pervading the human consciousness, that those experiences are a reflection of. And as we come to understand that deeper, the world is not separate from our own self. There is no world out there and me in here. We could say me is the infinite self, the unmanifest aspect, and the world, the universe, is the manifest. The same one thing appearing two different ways, like two sides of a coin. One side is the invisible self, the other side is the infinite manifestation of the universe. And neither of them can exist without the other. Well, the unmanifest can exist on its own, but they are really one and the same. And it's probably why you don't see so many awakened beings speaking up. It's not because of lack of interest. There's a deep interest in the welfare of all beings, and the evolution of human consciousness overall is all that I'm really here for, so to speak. So having an opinion in a worldly sense, it's not so interesting anymore quite often, because trying to talk to people who are completely unaware of who they really are yet isn't really going to solve anything. Just as trying to fix our own problems from a place of separation thinking hasn't really fixed it for us either. I'm more interested in helping as many body-mind vehicles as I can to see the truth. And if you get enough, and it's not just this teaching, there are so many teachings and teachers around the world right now doing the same thing. With enough body-mind vehicles letting the truth shine through them, there wouldn't be any political problems or wars or anything. It would be a very, very different world indeed. So I could muster up an opinion if someone really wanted me to have one, or if it would. Sometimes that kind of thing happens if I'm with people who are not on the path, then they might be surprised that I don't have an opinion. Something spontaneously might come out. This is what I think and feel about it. But it would just be happening just as spontaneously as my hand moving now. I'm not planning that. It's just doing it. These words coming out. I'm not planning when to inhale and exhale or blink my eyes. It's all just happening spontaneously in that way. So I hope that gives you an insight. It's not an avoidance or anything. It's just what's the deepest and most effective place that we can work on the world's problems. And it really isn't in the world of duality. It's in the place where the sense of duality arises from, working on that level. Of course, you know, those people who do work in those situations where the human consciousness really does need help, and where we see things going on that we'd rather not happen. You know, nothing but love and respect for those beings who literally get in there and make the difference. Awakened beings will make just as much difference, but in a very different way. So I hope that helps you to find some resolution to it, but please do write back in if you need more clarity on that. Thank you, Karen.
The next question is from Ananda Sidhu. There are many cultivation practices of Qigong. How does it lead or help one's enlightenment as a single path or a complementary path?
I've only very, very briefly studied it, to be honest, and done a tiny little bit of it. I know there are some beings that feel it is a complete path to awakening. I really can't comment on that because I haven't used it in a soul way. Having said that, when I did do some of it, I really did feel more relaxed, more energized, more balanced, more calm. And it was a very beautiful, beautiful practice. But I can't really answer that question, unfortunately, because I haven't really ever pursued it that deeply, nor used it only as a soul pathway, so to speak, for awakening. So best I can do with that one.
So she also asks, I came across a Qigong practice called Falundafa. It's Falundafa. If you, Helen, have any experience about it, please do comment.
I've never heard of it before today, unfortunately. So yeah, I can't help you there either. So many apologies.
We have a question from Michael. Is the I that is everything expanding and learning and becoming more? Or is the I just playing around here because there's nothing else to do or learn?
What if it's both? And what if both are the same thing? You know? In the manifestation, the I, the infinite I, is appearing as all these forms, and it is appearing as these human forms that we see everywhere. And it's learning through every form that it appears as. It's experiencing as much as an amoeba or a blade of grass as it is as a human being. But when it appears as a human being, it's got the capacity for great delusion and also the capacity for liberation. So really both of those are the same thing. It's just doing all this being, creating all these forms for no apparent reason other than it loves to do that. The infinite awareness, the self, the consciousness is creating all these shapes because it just loves to make them. It's in its nature to have shapes arise in itself. And that's part of that. It's never going to create the same shape twice because it is infinite in its capacity to express. If it could make the same shape twice, show up as the same thing twice, it would not be infinite. So it's doing all this to learn about itself, but really also the same thing is it's doing it for the joy of it, for no other reason, and literally because there is nothing else for it to do. What else would there be for it to do when it is everything and everywhere? Maybe that's what you're pointing out when you put that. So because people often ask me, what is the purpose of all of this creation then? Only really to help you recognize who you are, the one that created it and sustains it. And maybe if you want one more reason, it's for the fun of it, for the joy of it. It doesn't seem joyful or fun at all, or for our learning. It feels like it's for much other reasons when we feel we're a separate being. But as we come out of that, we will begin to see the joy inherent in all of this and the creation. So yeah, both are the same thing. Thanks, Karen.
So our next question is from Ideology to Unity. Why should I push through anything? Why should I exert effort to do what I don't want to do at that point in time? Isn't that wounded masculine? Isn't that force? If it's not inspired action, isn't it best that I do not do it unless I want to?
Yes and no. So sometimes you'll hear teachers saying, if you don't want to do it, don't do it, right? Don't push through anything. And other times you'll hear, I think maybe this is in response to the comment from someone on the last volume 24, I think, where I was really advising them to push through resistance and do some practice anyway. So there's the difference right there. If there is no resistance in to doing something, it will just get done anyway. We wouldn't even be having this conversation because spontaneously the body would move. And it would feel like inspired action. It would feel joyful. The very fact that if there's something we need to do and we're not doing it, there must be resistance somewhere in the system to doing it. So on one hand, you can wait. You can sit back and wait for the resistance to go. And eventually the body will move to do the practice or whatever it is that we're talking about here. On the other hand, I found that to be incredibly slow, and I'm talking years of just watching the same pattern come up, the same resistance, the same experience in my outer world reflecting again and again and again. And so with a recognition beginning of who you really are, that which is not affected by anything, there comes a capacity to just move through resistance anyway. Resistance is just an energy. It doesn't belong to anyone. It just is. It doesn't necessarily have to be the wounded masculine, I think you said. If I think I'm a separate being and I push through something anyway and end up accidentally reaffirming that I don't feel good enough because I push through it and it goes wrong, or I push through it and stall out in that process, like I intend to move towards it and then I don't, I'm only going to end up feeling pushed around by life, pushed around by spiritual teachings, things like that. If as the infinite self, I can see this is just a little resistance here, just an energy that tries to keep things the same. Our mind is always going to want to keep things the same, just like everyone. It doesn't like change. It doesn't recognize that change is always happening for the better, even if it doesn't look like it. So it tries to keep things exactly as they are. And as such, it will offer resistance to everything that's new, most especially to spiritual practice. And that resistance might show up in terms of just completely forgetting to do it. Restlessness, irritation when I try to sit and do the practice, whatever that is. Downright open procrastination, I'll do it later. Avoidance, all kinds of things. And it showed up in all those ways for me. So we can't really say what we should do in any situation in an absolute way, like you've pointed to here, I don't feel. More important to find out why we're not doing it, why we're chosen to not push through it. And that can be because we are thinking we're a separate being still, and that we're feeling like we have to do something and don't want to. Or it can be just because we don't really need to. But if there is resistance, usually that's there for a good reason. The most resistance will show up when we're about to make the biggest breakthrough. And in my own awakening, I learned to, after a lot of painful experience of not doing this, I learned to run towards what I was resisting the best that I could, or at least want to run towards it if I couldn't actually do it yet. Realizing that there must be some big spiritual benefit on the other side of pushing through that resistance. Ultimately, it's always your choice. If you don't want to do it, don't do it. But just checking out, is that really working for you? For me, it was the endless same old Groundhog Day experiences of not enough of this, that, and everything. Not enough peace, not enough money, not enough energy, not enough well-being, all of it. So hope that's helpful. Thanks, Karen.
This next and last question is from Amber. She says, I'm sorry if you've answered this before, Helen. I'm wondering how much time we should dedicate to meditation, self-inquiry, and contemplation each day. I think I remember you saying 20 minutes of meditation once or twice a day was sufficient. But what about the self-inquiry and the contemplation? Should they be done for a few minutes here and there throughout the day? Thank you in advance.
Yeah, and you can ask as many times as you like. Not everyone can watch every video, obviously, so it's something that's very fundamental as well, an important question. So 20 minutes of meditation a day is enough, and there's plenty of guided meditations here to help with that on the YouTube channel. Again, if you go to the playlist, you'll see guided meditations playlist there. Contemplation, for me, there was a period of intense contemplation, a lot of contemplation. After I started to realize why I needed to contemplate, there was a lot coming up, as there had been previously, but now I knew how to kind of work with it. So there was like 6 or 7 months of quite intense contemplation, mostly around those 3 core beliefs that we've looked at earlier in this video. I'm not safe, can't get what I want, and I'm not good enough, I don't deserve happiness, etc. And those cover most of the range of human emotions. So there was a lot of that coming up, and for most of us, it's showing up in one part of our life. So our finances, or our job, or our family relationships, but it will also be everywhere. If I deeply feel I can't get what I want, that's going to be affecting even my experience around awakening, right? If I really want awakening, I'll keep experiencing not being there with this belief that and not being peaceful with this belief that I can't get what I want, which is also the root cause of resistance and procrastination, avoidance, etc. So contemplation really, as and when you need to, when you see a belief that's coming from a strong emotion, I would question that emotion, the belief rather behind that emotion. And I would question that consistently every day, 5 minutes or so every day. If you have the time, definitely. And then when it pops up, when it gets triggered, so let's say we're working with I'm not safe, something happens and fear arises. We might have sat and looked at this belief in the morning after our meditation, for example. But then it pops up again here. Here's a good time. If we can be together enough to question, sometimes when there's a real strong emotion flooding the system, we can't necessarily do it right there. We might even forget the question. and seemingly lose access momentarily to everything we've realized about ourselves. But when the dust settles, when it calms down, we can go back and look at what were the big emotions that came up today for me, and did I question them? If not, no blame. Can I just give it a little question now? So as and when is needed, like taking a medicine, so to speak. Stubborn beliefs, I'm not safe, was such a big one for me and for everyone, because it's part and parcel of thinking we're a separate self. That I had to sort of really stick with it for 30 days. Same with unworthiness, I'm not good enough, and anger, powerlessness. I can't get what I want. So there might be a period of intense contemplation not intense as in efforting, but just trying to be as consistent as possible with it, alongside meditation. And then self-inquiry, if for the fast track route out of suffering, I would do some self-inquiry every day. I literally lived with a question for 2 to 3 months, this question, where am I? Which there are also some videos in the self-inquiry playlist here on YouTube, where we explore that question. Or what am I also worked for me. Some people like, who am I? It didn't really ever gel with me, but if it does for you, great. There are many different ways of doing self-inquiry on that playlist as well, easier ways and more direct ways, let's say. So I would do some of that every day if it feels right to you. Now, self-inquiry is as quick and as direct as it gets in terms of recognizing who you are. Because of that, there might be a lot of resistance to it. So if that happens, it's very normal. But ideally, could you spend 5 minutes a day with a self-inquiry question? And again, there are lots of examples on the playlists there. And I never really dropped self-inquiry. I still love playing with the questions because they're so joyful then, rather than having to do them to free myself from suffering. So I would, in a nutshell, I would do meditation and self-inquiry every day, and contemplation as and when needed. And I wouldn't stop contemplating until a negative emotion has gone. You don't feel it anymore. Or the situation that seemed to trigger it, so not enough of something in the world, money, time, energy, whatever, seems to be reversing itself too. It just seems to have sorted itself out, because the outside and the inside are the same. So as we're contemplating inside on the belief, the outside world is going to reflect that back to us in a different way, just as it was reflecting the belief also to us. So one final note on that. If we're quite new to the teachings, then we might have a lot of beliefs attached. If you imagine the belief in being a separate being as being the trunk of a tree, that I'm a separate person, I'm this mind and body is the trunk and the root of a tree. You might have so many branches on this tree of separation, so many places where these I'm not safe and I don't deserve, and I can't get what I want are showing up, that you might not even be able to see the actual trunk of the tree. So and what that would look like is I sit down to do some self-inquiry and I just feel overwhelmed. I just feel like I'm never going to get it. I end up beating myself up in my thoughts. I don't understand self-inquiry. There's resistance to it, all of those things coming up. And that would probably just be some unworthiness popping up there. So self-inquiry as soon as you can. But some people find that very difficult at first, and that is very normal. It's not anything that anyone is doing wrong. Just wanted to put that in there because that was certainly my every time I started with a self-inquiry question, some big emotion will pop up and take the center stage, and I would totally forget about my inquiry, and I'd have to sort of re-engage with it later. It's all very normal. So hope that helps, but please do ask if you need more guidance with that. So thank you very much, Karen, for reading those for me, as always. Wonderful. So just a quick recap, we will get together and record another one of these middle to late May. And then if you have a question or a comment or something you want some help with to do with awakening, please stick it underneath this video as a comment, and we'll go through those when we get to that time. Thank you so much for being here with us today. Hope you've enjoyed it, and we will see you next time. Namaste.